Hello and welcome to another review for the AGSEduGamer. Today we're taking a look at a game called Ultimate Werewolf, the Ultimate Edition. Now I know you're probably thinking to yourself right now, I don't recall having any werewolf units in my curriculum. And you would be correct. This game is certainly not going to be in your collection to help reinforce any concepts from class, unless somehow you're doing a unit on mythological creatures or a history of monster movies or something along those lines. So why are we looking at this game today? Well, let's open it up and I'll tell you. So here's the box for Ultimate Werewolf, the Ultimate Edition by Bezier Games. And I wasn't originally planning to look at this game right away. However, because we are just a couple days removed from the first day of school here in Canada, I think a lot of teachers figure that the first day of school, they don't necessarily want to jump right in and start pounding out curriculum and going through notes or doing worksheets or starting any new projects. You have a bunch of new students in your class, and you want to start with an icebreaker. And that's where Ultimate Werewolf, the Ultimate Edition comes in. This game is a great icebreaker for the first day of school, and I will warn you right now, one significant con to this game is once students play it, they're not going to want to stop. I introduced this game in my classes last year and had to struggle every single class with the students coming in. Inevitably, the first thing they're asking me is, can we play Ultimate Werewolf today? So let's open the box and we'll just take a look at what this game entails. So Ultimate Werewolf is a very small box, as there's not a whole lot of components included in the game. You're going to get a rule book that tells you about all the different types of roles that will be included in the game. You get a small pad of paper just for tracking each game that you play and the different roles, and you're going to have a variety of cards, mostly centering around two factions, either the werewolves or the villagers. In addition to the two main camps of werewolves and villagers, there needs to be a moderator, and I highly recommend for your first few games that you take on the role of the moderator. So it's a good idea to perhaps put the rules up on the board so all students are aware of what the rules of the game are. As I've found out, students are sometimes tempted to break these rules, and then to just go through the basic cards. Now, the reason this is called Ultimate Werewolf, the Ultimate Edition, is that they've included many different roles above and beyond just villagers and werewolves. Now, the only other unique role, other than the moderator, is what we call the seer. And the seer has special powers and is actually able, once a night, to look around and identify which player could potentially be a werewolf. Now, there are some other cards here you can see. There's an apprentice seer, there's sorcerer, there are vampires, there are witches, and different types of villagers. And so you can make this game as basic or as complex as you like. So if you find that your students are really enjoying this game, and if they after a couple games start to get bored of just having basic villagers, a werewolf, and a seer, they can start to add in these other roles to add a lot of variety to the game. So I don't want to go too in-depth into how you actually go about playing the game, but the game is very easy and just basically rotates through a series of phases. So the first phase is the nighttime phase. And in the nighttime phase, this is where the werewolves will awaken. So you hand out the cards ahead of time, and there's always more villagers than werewolves. So you have the whole class, they close their eyes, put their heads on their desk, and you tell the werewolves that it's their time to come alive. So they will all quietly stick their heads up, look around the room, see who their fellow werewolves are, and then by quietly pointing, we'll have to identify which villager it is that they want to take out that night. Then the werewolves go to sleep, and then the seer, which is one other special role, gets an opportunity to awaken, and they get to point to a random student in the class. Now, if they point to a student that is a werewolf, you will quietly give them a thumbs up so that they have correctly identified who a werewolf is. They will then close their eyes, and it's now daytime. Everyone awakens, they look around the circle, and people can start accusing other villagers of being potential werewolves. Now, of course, the villagers don't know which students are werewolves and which ones aren't, and this is where you can have some fun with role-playing. You can have the students come up with a character for themselves, and they'll start throwing around accusations. Now, when an accusation is made, you as the moderator will ask, is there anyone who would like to second this person to be considered? And if another person seconds that person to be identified, then you go around and every student will either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Now, if the majority of the students give a thumbs up, that means that that person is safe. However, if the majority of students give that person a thumbs down, that means that they are taken and hanged from a tree. So when a villager is exposed and they are lynched, you will then expose whether that person was a villager or a werewolf. Now, the werewolves, the way that they win the game is by trying to reduce enough villagers down so that they are either equal in number, or so the werewolves actually have more numbers than the villagers, and the villagers are trying to eradicate all the different werewolf characters. Now, you may be asking, well, we already established that the seer has been able to identify a werewolf. Now, the problem with that is the seer, yes, they could come out and say, I know that that person is a werewolf, he needs to be hanged. Well, the problem with that is who, of course, do you think is going to get picked off that night? Of course, the seer. So the seer has to sort of subtly suggest which person should be taken out without exposing that they are the seer, or else they know that they're going to be a target. So Ultimate Werewolf is a game that I tend to play with older students only. You may have already established that if you teach grade 6 or you teach grade 7, that perhaps the theme of werewolves and witches and sorcerers might be too dark for younger students, particularly because the theme of the game is that these people are being lynched and killed every night. So you have to definitely know your class and use your best judgment if you decide you want to use this game or not. But with older students, if you do some storytelling, if students get into the role-playing aspect of it, it can be a lot of fun. You can create a lot of tension, and students just will love this game. The other consideration you might have to think about is if you have students in your class who are very religious, they may be offended by some of the roles in this game. So there is witches, there are sorcerers, and this could be a problem for people who are strongly religious who might be sensitive to those types of things. If that is the case, you might want to avoid this game altogether, or at least keep it to its most basic in terms of just having villagers and werewolves. So I really like having the official version of Ultimate Werewolf Ultimate Edition. I love the artwork on the cards. There's a variety of cards so that if a particular class really likes that game, you can have a lot of replay value in terms of including different roles. And the rulebook also comes with lots of different scenarios, so you can always be adding replay value to the game. Now, you may notice that I have put card sleeves on my cards just to protect them. You may find with middle-aged students or even older students, they might not treat your cards with very much respect, even if they just have a lapse of judgment for a second. They might bend the card in half, put it in their desk, maybe there's gum in there and your card is ruined, or maybe they're just pulling it back and forth between two students and the card rips in half or gets damaged. So I find you can buy fairly inexpensive card sleeves just to try and protect them. Now, of course, you don't actually need to buy Ultimate Werewolf to play this in class. If you look up the rules, you can easily just write on a piece of paper and have a certain amount of werewolves, a certain amount of villagers, and include a seer, and you can just do this with paper and pass it around and still play the game, and it'll still be very enjoyable. For me personally, I like having the official game. I find the artwork sort of adds to the mood of Werewolf, and it's kind of fun to have those extra scenarios and extra cards just to add the extra replay value. This game is quite inexpensive, so I find it's worth the low cost of entry. So to conclude, I love Ultimate Werewolf, and this has been a huge hit in my classes. If you feel that your class is mature enough and they can handle the darker theme of werewolves, then I'd highly recommend using this as an icebreaker. The other way you can use this, if you find your students have worked really hard, it's a Friday last block and their attention span is starting to wane, then Ultimate Werewolf can be a really fun way to kind of end the day or reward your students for working hard. The other really good thing about this game is on the side of the box, it advertises it plays between 5 and 68 players. So, whether you have a class of 15 or whether you have a class of 40, Ultimate Werewolf will basically work in any school environment. You could even get together with another teacher and have 2 classes play this game, and it could be very fun. So I highly recommend Ultimate Werewolf if you teach older students and you're looking for an easy icebreaker for the first day of class or as a reward at the end of a long week. So thank you very much for watching Ultimate Werewolf Ultimate Edition review. I'll be looking to review another game soon. However, school's starting in the next couple days, so it may take me a week or so to get another game. So thanks very much for watching. Have a great weekend.